They thought it was just another Sunday evening. Dinner plans, maybe catch a movie, visit some friends. But in 32 minutes, Joplin, Missouri would be erased from the map, and some of them would never leave. May 22nd, 2011, 5:17 p.m. A mother from Kansas City pulls into the parking lot of a Home Depot. She's visiting her sister, helping her pick out paint colors for a nursery. The sky looks strange, but it's tornado season in Missouri. The sky always looks strange. She doesn't know that in exactly 24 minutes, she'll be holding onto a steel beam while the building disintegrates around her. She doesn't know that she'll survive. Her sister won't. This is not a story about a tornado. This is a story about the math of survival when the atmosphere turns hostile. This is about the visitors, the out-of-towners, the people just passing through who got caught in the crosshairs of the deadliest single tornado in 64 years. 161 people died in Joplin that day. Some of them were just visiting. The morning of May 22nd starts unremarkably. Joplin, population 50,000, sits in the southwest corner of Missouri, tucked into the Ozark foothills where Missouri, Kansas, Oklahoma, and Arkansas meet. It's a crossroads city. Interstate 44 runs east to west. Route 71 cuts north to south. People pass through Joplin on their way to somewhere else. Today, thousands of them are here for exactly that reason. Passing through. If you're watching this and realizing how quickly everything can change, do me a favor right now. Hit that subscribe button. Tap the like button. This is a story that needs to be heard, and your support makes that possible. Share this with someone who lives in tornado country. Now let's continue with what happened that Sunday. The Storm Prediction Center in Norman, Oklahoma, issues a moderate risk forecast for severe weather across the Central Plains. Moderate sound benign. It's not. In the language of meteorology, moderate means supercells are likely. Tornadoes are probable. Large hail, damaging winds. The full arsenal of convective violence is on the table. But moderate risk days happen dozens of times each spring. Most don't produce killers. This one will be different. The atmospheric setup is textbook perfect for disaster. A powerful low-pressure system is tracking northeast across Kansas. At the surface, a warm front has lifted through Missouri, pulling humid air from the Gulf of Mexico northward. Temperatures in Joplin climb into the mid-70s. Dew points, the measure of atmospheric moisture, reach the upper 60s. This combination creates instability. The air wants to rise. It needs a trigger. That trigger comes in the form of a dry line, an invisible boundary where moist Gulf air collides with dry air from the desert southwest. Along this line, air parcels are forced upward. When they rise high enough, past the level where temperature and pressure equilibrium exists, they continue rising on their own. This is free convection. This is how supercells are born. By early afternoon, storms begin firing along the dry line in eastern Kansas. A dry line is not visible to the naked eye. There are no clouds marking its position. But on satellite imagery and radar, it appears as a crisp boundary where clear skies end and towers of cumulus begin building. The first cells develop around noon. By 1 p.m., they're rotating. By 2 p.m., they're severe warrant. At 2 p.m., the National Weather Service office in Springfield, Missouri, is monitoring 3 discrete supercells tracking east across Kansas toward the Missouri border. Meteorologist Chad Omit is on duty. He's been watching these storms since they first appeared on radar. The cells are showing all the signatures of tornadic supercells. Hook echoes, areas of rotation where precipitation wraps around the updraft. Velocity couplets, regions where winds are moving toward and away from the radar at high speeds, indicating rotation. Debris balls, regions of high radar reflectivity near the ground that suggest a tornado is lofting debris into the air. Omit knows what's coming. He's been a meteorologist in southwest Missouri for 12 years. He's seen hundreds of severe storms. He's issued dozens of tornado warnings. But something about today feels different. The change in wind speed and direction with height, is extreme. The instability, measured by Cape values over 3,000 joules per kilogram, is off the charts. Every parameter is maximized. This is a high-end event. At 4 p.m., A tornado touches down near Baxter Springs, Kansas, just west of the state line. It's brief, weak, EF1 intensity with winds around 100 miles per hour. Damage is limited to trees and outbuildings. A barn is destroyed. Power lines are knocked down. No one is injured. The storm continues east, intensifying as it crosses into Missouri. By 5 p.m., it's a monster. The updraft is now pulling air from the surface at velocities exceeding 150 miles per hour. This creates a vacuum effect. Air rushes toward the base of the storm from all directions, converging, spinning, tightening into a vortex. The mesocyclone, the rotating column of air inside the supercell, is now 5 miles wide. But within that broad rotation, a smaller, tighter circulation is forming. This is the tornado. This is what will destroy Joplin. The radar signature is unmistakable. On the velocity display, which shows wind motion toward and away from the radar site, a tight couplet appears. Red and green pixels, representing winds moving in opposite directions, are side by side. This means rotation. The velocity difference, the speed at which these winds are moving relative to each other, exceeds 120 knots. In meteorological terms, this is a violent tornado. The kind that produces EF4 and EF5 damage. The kind that kills. Inside a hotel room at the Comfort Inn on Range Line Road, a family from Illinois is getting ready for dinner. Mark Henderson, 52 years old, a machinist from Peoria, his wife Linda, 49, and their daughter Amy, 24. They're in Joplin for a high school graduation. Their niece is graduating from Missouri Southern State University. The ceremony was this morning. It was hot, humid, the kind of oppressive heat that makes you sweat standing still. But it was beautiful. The niece gave a speech. The family took photos. Tonight is the celebration dinner at a steakhouse downtown. Mark steps out onto the balcony to check the weather. The sky is green. Not the pale green of spring leaves, but a sickly, unnatural green. The color of a bruise. He's lived in Illinois his entire life. He knows what a green sky means. It means hail. It means rotation. It means get to shelter now. He goes back inside and tells his wife they need to find shelter. Linda protests. The dinner reservation is in 30 minutes. They need to get ready. Mark insists. The sky is wrong. Something is coming. They leave the room and head to the interior hallway on the first floor. The hotel staff is already directing guests away from windows. The tornado warning was issued 6 minutes ago. The sirens are wailing outside, but many guests aren't taking it seriously. This is the 47th tornado warning Joplin has received in 2011. 47 warnings. 0 tornadoes. The false alarm rate has created complacency. People are numb to the sirens. They've heard them too many times. They've taken shelter too many times only to emerge and find that nothing happened. This cognitive bias, known as warning fatigue, is a documented phenomenon in tornado psychology. When warnings are issued frequently without subsequent impact, people begin to discount them. They perform a subconscious risk calculation. The cost of taking shelter, missing dinner, interrupting plans, is weighed against the perceived probability of an actual tornado. When the false alarm rate is high, the cost of action exceeds the perceived risk of inaction. People ignore the warnings, and sometimes people die. At the Home Depot on Range Line Road, the store is busy. Sunday afternoon, late spring, peak season for home improvement projects. The aisles are crowded with contractors stocking up for the week, homeowners buying mulch and garden supplies, and visitors like the woman from Kansas City who's here helping her sister. Sarah Mitchell, 38, drove down from Kansas City that morning. Her sister, Jennifer, 35, is 8 months pregnant. The nursery needs to be painted. Sarah is helping her pick colors, get supplies, maybe grab lunch afterward. They're in the paint section when the PA system crackles. A calm voice announces that severe weather is approaching and customers should move to the center of the store away from windows. Some customers comply, moving toward the lumber and tool sections where there are interior offices and bathrooms. Most don't. It's just a thunderstorm. They got shopping to finish. The announcement repeats, more urgent this time. Customers are advised to take shelter immediately. A tornado warning is in effect. Jennifer looks at Sarah. Should we go? Sarah shrugs. Let's at least move away from the windows. They walk toward the back of the store, toward the lumber section. They don't run. There's no sense of urgency. The store is still bright, still normal. Music is playing over the speakers. Other customers are still shopping, still browsing. If this was serious, everyone would be moving, right? This is normalcy bias. The psychological tendency to assume that things will continue as they have been, that disasters happen to other people, that your current reality will persist. Normalcy bias is why people don't evacuate during hurricanes. It's why people stay in burning buildings. It's why people ignore tornado warnings. The human brain is wired to seek patterns, to assume stability. When presented with information that contradicts the current stable state, the brain resists. This can't be happening. Not here. Not now. Not to me. But it is happening. At 5:11 p.m., the National Weather Service issues a tornado warning for Jasper County, Missouri. The wording is standard. A tornado warning means a tornado is imminent or occurring. If you're in the path of this storm, take shelter immediately. Move to an interior room on the lowest floor of a sturdy building. Stay away from windows. The warning is broadcast on NOAA weather radio, pushed to cell phones through wireless emergency alerts, and displayed on television screens across southwest Missouri. But the warning doesn't say this tornado is different. It doesn't say this is the big one. It doesn't say you will die if you don't take this seriously. Because the National Weather Service doesn't have the authority or the data to make those distinctions at this point. All tornado warnings are treated equally in the text. A brief EF0 that touches down in a field and dissipates receives the same warning language as a violent EF5 that's about to destroy a city. There's no way to know which is which until after the fact. At St. John's Regional Medical Center on the east side of Joplin, the emergency room is preparing for storm trauma. This is standard protocol on severe weather days. Extra staff are called in. Trauma bays are cleared. Blood supplies are checked. Surgical teams are put on standby. The hospital sits directly in the path of the approaching supercell, though no one knows this yet. The warning is for Jasper County. Joplin is in Jasper County. That's all they know. Dr. Kevin Kittle, the ER director, has lived in Joplin for 15 years. He's worked through dozens of tornado warnings. None have produced significant tornadoes. The hospital has a tornado plan. Interior corridors, lower floors, away from windows. But the plan assumes a typical tornado. An EF1, maybe an EF2, brief, narrow, survivable if you're in the right place. The plan does not account for what's about to happen. At 5:17 p.m., the tornado crosses into Missouri. It's already violent. EF4 intensity minimum, winds exceeding 200 miles per hour. The funnel is 3/4 of a mile wide and growing. It's not the thin rope tornado that people picture when they think of tornadoes. It's a wedge, a term meteorologists use to describe tornadoes that are wider than they are tall. This tornado is so wide that from a distance, it doesn't look like a funnel. It looks like a wall, a black wall of debris, rain, and condensation that spans from the ground to the cloud base 50,000 feet above. It looks like the end of the world, because for Joplin, it is. The tornado enters Joplin from the west, striking the industrial zone along Interstate 44 first. This is not residential. This is warehouses, distribution centers, truck stops, large metal buildings with wide spans and minimal structural support. When 200-mile-per-hour winds hit these structures, they don't resist. They peel open like sardine cans. Roofs are torn away. Walls collapse. Semi-trailers parked in loading docks are lifted and thrown like toys. The truck stop at the junction of I-44 and Range Line Road is obliterated. The main building, a combination gas station, restaurant, and convenience store, collapses in seconds. Inside are truck drivers waiting out the storm, employees working the evening shift, and travelers who pulled off the highway when the warning started. Some run to the walk-in coolers, the reinforced spaces designed to keep food cold. These spaces have concrete walls, steel doors, no windows. They're not tornado shelters, but they're better than being in the open. Others don't make it. The building collapses before they can reach safety. 3 truck drivers die in the rubble. Michael Torres, 41, from Texas. David Nguyen, 38, from Arkansas. Robert Clemens, 55, from Oklahoma. They were just passing through. Torres was hauling electronics from Tulsa to Kansas City. Nguyen was transporting auto parts. Clemens was carrying furniture. They pulled off I-44 to wait out the storm. They made a fatal decision. The safest place during a tornado is not a truck stop. It's underground. But there was no underground. There was no basement. There was no time. The tornado continues east, crossing I-44 and moving into the commercial corridor along Range Line Road. This is the heart of Joplin's retail district. Big box stores, chain restaurants, hotels, strip malls. This is where the death toll begins to climb. Range Line is lined with buildings constructed to modern commercial standards. That means cheap, steel frame construction with thin walls. Flat roofs supported by open web steel joists, trusses that are efficient and economical but structurally weak. Wide open floor plans with minimal interior walls. These buildings are designed for customer flow and cost efficiency, not wind resistance. When a 200-mile-per-hour wind hits a big box store, several things happen simultaneously. First, the windward wall, the wall facing the wind, experiences positive pressure. The wind pushes against it. At 200 miles per hour, that pressure exceeds 100 pounds per square foot. For a wall 30 feet tall and 200 feet wide, that's over 600,000 pounds of force. The wall fails. It either collapses inward or blows outward, depending on the connections. Second, the roof experiences uplift. Wind flowing over the top of the building creates a negative pressure zone, sucking the roof upward. Simultaneously, wind entering through the failed windward wall pressurizes the interior, pushing the roof upward from below. The roof trusses designed to support gravity loads, snow, mechanical equipment, not uplift, snap at their connections. The roof lifts off the building and tumbles through the air. Third, without the roof to provide lateral stability, the remaining walls collapse. Buildings don't fall straight down. They fall outward, away from the center, creating a debris field that extends far beyond the original footprint. Anyone inside has seconds, not minutes, between the first structural failure and total collapse. At 5:21 p.m., the tornado reaches Range Line Road. The first structure hit is a strip mall. The buildings are one-story, wood frame, brick veneer. The tornado doesn't slow down. The structures explode. Brick facades shear away from wooden studs. Roofs are peeled back and thrown. Interior walls collapse. A nail salon, a pizza restaurant, a cell phone store, all reduced to rubble in seconds. 2 people die in the pizza restaurant. They were employees, working the evening shift, preparing for the dinner rush. They didn't take shelter. They didn't think it would be this bad. Across the street, the Fast Trip gas station vanishes. The building is there 1 second, gone the next. Surveillance footage recovered from a camera mounted on a building a block away captures the moment. The tornado is a dark mass filling the frame. The gas station is visible for a fraction of a second, and then it's not. The building doesn't collapse. It disintegrates. The walls, the roof, the structure, everything breaks apart simultaneously and is carried away by the wind. What remains is the concrete pad and the underground fuel tanks. Inside the building are 4 people. The clerk, a 23-year-old woman named Ashley Grant, and 3 customers. They have no warning beyond the sirens outside. The building has no basement, no safe room, no reinforced spaces. When the tornado strikes, they're killed instantly. Their bodies are found in the debris field, some thrown over 100 feet from where the building stood. The Home Depot is struck at 5:22 p.m. The store is massive, over 100,000 square feet under one roof. The structure is steel frame with metal siding. The roof is supported by open web joists spanning up to 60 feet. When the tornado hits, the west wall fails first. The metal siding peels away. The steel frame bends. The connections holding the columns to the foundation fail. The columns topple. Without the columns, the roof has no support. The trusses collapse. The entire structure, a building the size of 2 football fields, folds in on itself in less than 10 seconds. Inside, customers and employees have seconds to react. Some are near the front of the store, close to the exits. They run. They make it outside before the collapse. Others are deeper in the store, in the lumber section, the garden center, the appliance aisles. They don't have time to reach the exits. The managers are directing people to interior offices, to bathrooms, any enclosed space with walls. But the collapse is too fast. The entire building comes down. Sarah Mitchell is in the lumber section. She's standing near a steel support column, one of the main vertical members that holds up the roof. When the collapse begins, she grabs the column and holds on. The roof comes down. Trusses crash around her. Lumber, stacks of 2x4s and plywood, tumbles from the shelves. Debris is everywhere. She closes her eyes and holds the column. The roar is deafening. She can't hear anything except the wind and the sound of metal tearing. And then it stops. The roar ends. The wind stops. Sarah opens her eyes. She's alive. The column held. There's a small space around her, maybe 3 feet by 3 feet, where the debris didn't fall. She's trapped, but she's not crushed. She calls out for her sister. Jennifer. Jennifer. No answer. She calls again. Nothing. She can hear other people screaming. Voices in the darkness. Help. Somebody help me. I'm trapped. But she can't hear Jennifer. Jennifer was standing 5 feet away when the collapse began. She was holding a paint sample. She was looking at colors for the nursery. Soft yellow. Pale green. She didn't grab the column. She ran toward the bathrooms. She didn't make it. A truss fell. She was struck by falling debris. She died instantly. Her body will be recovered 6 hours later, pulled from the wreckage by firefighters. She's 8 months pregnant. The baby dies with her. Sarah Mitchell survives. She spends 48 minutes trapped under the wreckage, holding onto that steel column before rescuers reach her. When they pull her out, she asks about Jennifer. The rescuers don't answer. They know. Sarah will learn later, at the hospital, that her sister is dead. She will replay that moment for the rest of her life. The moment when Jennifer ran and Sarah grabbed the column. 5 feet. That's the distance between life and death. 5 feet. 7 people die in the Home Depot collapse. Sarah's sister Jennifer. 2 employees. For customers. One of them is a man from Kansas, in Joplin visiting his son at Missouri Southern. He stopped at Home Depot to pick up a light bulb. A light bulb. That's why he was there. That's why he died. Before we continue, I need to ask you something. Are you paying attention to warnings where you live? Do you take them seriously? Because this can happen anywhere. If this story is making you think, making you realize how fast things can go wrong, then do something about it. Subscribe to this channel. Hit that like button. Share this video with your family, your friends, anyone who lives in a place where storms happen. Let's build a community that remembers, that learns, that doesn't let warning fatigue kill people. Now, let's keep going, because the worst is still ahead. Across the street from the Home Depot, the Comfort Inn is struck seconds later. The hotel is 3 stories tall, 65 rooms, full of visitors in town for graduations, family events, weddings just passing through. Mark Henderson and his family are in the interior hallway on the 1st floor, exactly where the hotel staff directed them. Mark is shielding his wife Linda and daughter Amy with his body. They're sitting against the wall, arms wrapped around each other, heads down. The tornado hits the building with full force. The west side of the structure, the side facing the wind, fails first. Exterior walls collapse. Windows explode. The wind enters the building through the breached walls, pressurizing the interior. The 3rd floor lifts. The roof and the top floor are peeled away together, torn from the structure and thrown. What remains is a 2-story building with an open top, but the collapse continues. Without the roof to tie the walls together, the 2nd floor loses stability. The floor joists, wooden members spanning between load-bearing walls, snap at their connections. The floor collapses onto the 1st floor below. The impact is catastrophic. Anyone on the 2nd floor is dropped 12 feet onto concrete. Anyone on the 1st floor is crushed by the falling debris. Mark Henderson's family survives because they're in a load-bearing corridor a section of the first floor with concrete block walls and a reinforced ceiling. The debris falls around them, but not on them. They're trapped but alive. Mark can hear people screaming. Voices from above, from the collapsed second floor. Help! I'm trapped. I can't move. He tries to move, to reach them, but he can't. The stairwell has collapsed. The hallway is blocked. They're pinned in place. It takes rescue crews 6 hours to reach them. 6 hours in the dark, in the heat, with the smell of dust and blood and fear. When they're finally extracted, Mark emerges into a world he doesn't recognize. The parking lot is gone, buried under debris. The cars are destroyed, stacked on top of each other like crushed cans. The buildings across the street, the Home Depot, the strip mall, everything is gone. It looks like a bombing. It looks like war. 6 people die in the Comfort Inn. 3 hotel guests. 2 employees. 1 person who was just walking past when the building collapsed. Among the dead is Christopher Lucas, 28, from Tulsa. He checked into the hotel that morning. He was in Joplin for a job interview. The interview was scheduled for Monday morning at a manufacturing plant on the south side of town. He was nervous. This was a good opportunity. He wanted to make a good impression. He spent Sunday afternoon preparing, reviewing his resume, rehearsing answers to potential questions. When the tornado warning was issued, he stayed in his room. Second floor, west side. He thought about going to the hallway, but his room felt safe. Solid walls. A sturdy building. He'd been through tornado warnings before in Oklahoma. They always amounted to nothing. He stayed in his room. When the tornado struck, the west wall of the building collapsed. His room was torn away. His body was found in the parking lot, identified by his wallet. He never made it to the interview. There's Janet Clarkson, 63, from Wichita, Kansas. She was in Joplin for her granddaughter's high school graduation. The ceremony was Saturday afternoon. Janet stayed the night at the Comfort Inn, planning to drive back to Wichita on Sunday evening. After church on Sunday morning, she went to Walmart to buy a graduation gift. A gift card seemed appropriate. Money for college. She was in the checkout line when the tornado struck. The Walmart on Range Line Road is struck at 5:24 p.m. The building is even larger than the Home Depot, over 150,000 square feet. The construction is similar. Steel frame, metal siding, flat roof supported by open web joists. The tornado doesn't care about size. The physics are the same. Wind pressure exceeds structural capacity. Connections fail. The building collapses. The Walmart collapse is particularly deadly because of where it happens and when. Sunday evening, the store is crowded. Over 200 people are inside. When the tornado warning is issued, the store managers direct customers to move to the center of the store, away from the exterior walls. This is the correct response. The center of a large building is generally safer than the perimeter. But in an EF5 tornado, there is no safe place in a building like this. The west wall fails. The roof lifts. The structure collapses inward. People are crushed under falling debris. Shelves topple, burying customers under tons of merchandise. The ceiling collapses, bringing down lights, ductwork, and structural steel. The death toll at Walmart is staggering. 3 people die in the initial collapse. Janet Clarkson is one of them. She's found buried under the checkout area, her purse still on her shoulder, the gift card in her hand. The tornado continues east, carving a path of absolute destruction through the heart of Joplin. It strikes residential neighborhoods now, blocks of single-family homes built in the mid-20th century. These are not new construction. These are older homes, wood frame, brick, or vinyl siding, built before modern wind codes existed. When the tornado hits, entire blocks are leveled. Houses don't collapse vertically. They explode outward. Walls are blown apart. Roofs are lifted and thrown. The debris field from a single destroyed home can cover acres. Lumber, roofing material, furniture, personal belongings, all scattered across the landscape. Trees are stripped of bark and limbs, leaving only pale spikes pointing at the sky. Cars are thrown, lifted from driveways, and dropped hundreds of feet away. This is EF5 damage now. The tornado has reached peak intensity. Winds are estimated at 250 miles per hour in some areas, the upper limit of what the enhanced Fujita scale can measure. The randomness of survival is incomprehensible. One house is reduced to its foundation slab, swept completely clean. The house beside it loses only its roof. A family of 5 dies in their dining room, crushed when the ceiling collapsed. Their neighbor, standing on his porch watching the storm approach, is blown 60 feet through the air and lands in a yard 2 houses away. He survives with a broken arm and cuts from flying debris. He will never understand why he lived and his neighbors died. Emily Thornton's family huddles in their basement as the house above them explodes. Emily, her husband Jack, and their 2 children, ages 7 and 9, are crouched in the corner, arms wrapped around each other. They can hear the roar. It sounds like a freight train. Everyone says that, but it's worse. It's not just the sound of the wind. It's the sound of destruction. Wood splintering, glass breaking, metal tearing. The house is being ripped apart above them. And then it stops. The roar ends. Silence. Emily opens her eyes. They're alive. The basement ceiling held. But when they climb the stairs and emerge, their house is gone. Reduced to splinters. The walls, the roof, the rooms where they lived, where they ate and slept and raised their children, all gone. What remains is the foundation and scattered debris. Emily stands in what used to be her kitchen and looks at the sky. There's nothing between her and the clouds. Just open air. A check from their dining room table is later found 80 miles away in Carthage, Missouri. 80 miles. That's how far the wind carried a piece of paper. That's the power of an EF5 tornado. That's why 161 people died. The tornado moves toward the east side of Joplin, toward the medical district. St. John's Regional Medical Center sits on the highest ground in the city, a deliberate choice for flood protection. But height doesn't protect against tornadoes. At 5:38 p.m., the tornado strikes the hospital directly. The impact is catastrophic. St. John's is a modern hospital built in the 1960s and expanded multiple times. The structure is reinforced concrete, much stronger than the commercial buildings along Range Line Road. But even reinforced concrete has limits. When a 250-mile-per-hour wind hits, forces exceed design thresholds. The top floors, the 5th and 6th floors, are sheared away. Windows explode inward from pressure differentials. The intensive care unit, the surgical wing, the patient rooms on the upper floors, all are exposed to the vortex. Inside the hospital are 367 patients. Some are ambulatory, able to move on their own. Others are bedridden, on ventilators, in critical condition. The staff has been evacuating patients to interior corridors since the warning was issued. But there's not enough time, not enough staff, not enough space. When the tornado hits, patients are still in their rooms, still in beds near windows, still in the ICU. The 5th floor ICU is destroyed. The exterior walls collapse. The roof is torn away. Wind enters the patient rooms with full force. Beds are blown across rooms. Medical equipment is sucked out through the open walls and scattered across the city. Ventilators, monitors for pumps, all torn from their connections and carried away. Patients are blown out of their beds. Some are thrown through walls into adjacent rooms. Others are carried out of the building entirely, dropped into the parking lot or the surrounding neighborhood. Dr. Kevin Kittle is in the ER on the 1st floor when the tornado hits. The ER is in the basement level, partially underground, the safest part of the hospital. He feels the building shake. He hears the roar, and then the power goes out. Emergency lights come on, but they're dim. The backup generators are in the basement, but fuel lines have been severed. The generators run for a few minutes and then die. The hospital goes dark. Kittle and his staff work by flashlight, treating the injured as they're brought down from the upper floors. Compound fractures, deep lacerations from flying glass, head trauma, crush injuries. The injuries are severe, the kind of trauma you see in car accidents and industrial disasters. But this is worse. There are dozens of patients, and the hospital is damaged. The ER itself is structurally sound, but the rest of the building is compromised. They need to evacuate. Everyone, all 367 patients. But how? Where? 5 patients die in the tornado strike. They're in the ICU on the 5th floor. When the walls collapse and the wind enters, they're blown from their beds. Their bodies are found in the wreckage, still connected to 4 lines, still wearing hospital gowns. They came to the hospital to heal. They died in the safest place they could be. 2 visitors die as well. Margaret Preston, 58, from Kansas. She was visiting her mother in the ICU. Her mother had suffered a stroke 2 days earlier. Margaret was sitting beside the bed, holding her mother's hand, when the tornado struck. The wall behind her collapsed. She was struck by falling debris and killed instantly. Her mother survived. The bed protected her. Margaret's body was found beside the bed, still holding her mother's hand. There's Daniel Cross, 44, from Arkansas. He was visiting his brother, who was recovering from heart surgery. The brother was on the 4th floor in a cardiac care unit. When the tornado warning was issued, Daniel stayed with his brother. He didn't want to leave him alone. When the tornado struck, the 4th floor was damaged but not destroyed. The brother survived. Daniel was struck by flying glass and bled out before help could reach him. He was visiting. He was just there to support his brother. And he died. The evacuation of St. John's Hospital is a logistical nightmare. The building is structurally unsound. Aftershocks from the storm, high wind gusts from the parent supercell that's still overhead, are causing additional damage. Sections of the upper floors are collapsing. The stairwells are blocked with debris. Elevators are non-functional. Patients must be carried down manually, bed by bed, floor by floor. But where do they go? Freeman Hospital, Joplin's other major medical center, is on the west side of the city. It was not in the tornado's path. The building is intact, but Freeman has 250 beds and its own patient load. It can't absorb 367 additional patients. Not all at once. Not without overwhelming its capacity. The call goes out regionally. Hospitals in Springfield, 70 miles to the east, in Tulsa, 90 miles to the southwest, in Kansas City, 150 miles to the north, all respond. They send ambulances. They send medical helicopters. They clear beds and prepare trauma teams. The airlift begins. Patients are carried from St. John's on stretchers and backboards, loaded into ambulances and helicopters in the parking lot. The parking lot itself is a disaster zone, filled with debris, damaged vehicles, down power lines. But it's flat and open, enough space for helicopters to land. Through the night, the evacuation continues. Patients are flown to Springfield, to Tulsa, to Kansas City. The regional healthcare system, designed for exactly this kind of coordinated disaster response, performs as intended. But it's chaotic, it's terrifying, and it's slow. By dawn on May 23rd, all patients have been evacuated. St. John's Regional Medical Center, the largest employer in Joplin, the cornerstone of the city's healthcare system, is destroyed. The building will never reopen. It will be demolished and rebuilt elsewhere. But that's years away. For now, Joplin is a city without a hospital, and the injured keep coming. The tornado finally dissipates east of Joplin, near the small town of Duquesne. Total track length, 22 miles. Total time on the ground, 38 minutes. Maximum width, 1 mile. Maximum wind speed, over 250 miles per hour. Peak intensity, EF5, the highest rating on the enhanced Fujita scale. Total deaths, 161. Total injuries, over 1,150. Total structures damaged or destroyed, over 8,000. Economic damage, $3 billion. But numbers don't tell the story. The story is in the names. The stories of the people who died. The residents. The visitors. The people just passing through.